again. I greet you with the Muslim greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Almighty God be upon you. In my story, God put me through the buffet of monotheistic religion. This Bible was handed to me as I was evangelized by a friend of mine in a gym. At that time, I was a personal trainer. I had very nasty attitude. I weighed 240, 250 pounds with a 30, 31-inch waist. I had a nasty attitude. I lived in the Bronx, New York, growing up in a very strong and hard place where you had to be hard in order to get over. And I witnessed many things. The religion that I had was the religion of Christianity. I grew up as a Catholic. And then from that, I was evangelized by a friend of mine. He gave me this Bible, which I keep to this day. This was given to me 8, 9 years ago. And if I was to lose this Bible, I would be pretty angry, trust me, because I put a lot of work into this little Bible. This little Bible contains my soul and my heart and the effort that I put into it when I was evangelized into Christianity. I began by reading this book and being so touched by it that I would apologize to people on the bus, just getting on the bus. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How are you? I'm sorry. And crying, reading this book. I would go to the gym and apologize to my friends. They said, what you apologizing for? You didn't do it. You just walked in the door. Apologizing. This is how strong I was in the spirit. This love of Jesus and love of mankind. But what I didn't know then was, and I come to find out later, that I found Jesus and lost God. I found Jesus and lost God. When I became a Muslim, I found God and understood Jesus. There's the salvation. That's what it's all about. Who gives salvation? Who is the creator? Who is God? Who worked for who? When I was a Christian, I found Jesus and pressed everything on the shoulders of Jesus Christ. Godliness, Trinity, He was God. My salvation, He died on the cross. I found Jesus and forgot about the God who created Him and gave Him the mandate to do what He did. But when I became a Muslim, Alhamdulillah, I found God and understood Jesus. It put me in a position of absolute and total undisputable truth. That I now had a relationship with the God that Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Ishmael, Lot, Jonah, Noah, and all the prophets had a relationship with that God. And they came and told me, and I came to Islam and understood that for me to find God, I had to do what the prophets of God came to tell us to do in a methodology and system that told us this is how you worship the God that created. And He sent us as prophets to tell you that this is how we do it. Not to worship a man. As a Christian, what I did was, and as a Christian, what you do is, in the Bible it says, for God created man in His image. But in Christianity, you made God in the image of men. You made God in the image of men. God created man. God created Jesus. For God loved the world so much that He gave His only begotten or created Son. How do you equate the baker to be equal with the cake? How? How do you make the cake to be equal with the baker? How do you equate the electricity to be equal with the light bulb? How? What makes you think that He is God above the God that He served? I, as a Muslim, when I found this truth, that it tells me that my God is open, and let me tell you something. My God understands all languages because He created language. He created men, and He is the creator. And as such, the weakness is not with the God that I serve, but the weakness is with His creation. But when the creation understands that He is God, and that there's no other God, and that your strength, your life, your livelihood comes to this God who created us, then you begin to have an understanding with God. And that's what I have right now. Undisputable, undeniable. You bring up points about Jesus being God and saving you, and all these other things, do you think that you have the truth? Do you? You cannot say nowhere, and I've had 2 debates now, nowhere where Jesus Christ says, I am the Lord thy God. Bow and worship me. Show me the prayer. Show me the prayer that's directed to Jesus as God. Show me the prayer. You see, in the Bible, if Jesus Christ is God, the forgiver of sin is he who created us. Look what Jesus said. Man, I'm worked up. And I'm not a preacher. But Jesus Christ said this. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Not my kingdom. Thy will be done. Not mine. On earth as it is in heaven. For you're the boss up there and down here. Give us this day our daily bread. For you are the provider. Al-Rasak, the provider. Imagine God eating. And 2 hours later, after you eat, don't you have to go to the bathroom? Can you imagine God doing this? Can you? The Quran says, do you not see that Jesus Christ and his mother Mary both have food to eat? Look how simple I make my signs. Why? Because when you eat, the process of digestion takes place. God is in a state of righteousness and purity. God does not excrete. But God is provider, not consumer. So I had a relationship with God when I looked at my life and what it was. When I looked at my family as Catholics, when I looked at the Protestants, where in New York City, where I looked at the Catholics and the evangelicals, where on Christmas Eve, police officers set up roadblocks to catch drunk Christians celebrating the birth of Jesus, I had a catharsis. How are you going to say you worship God, the birthday of God, and get drunk while doing it? How? What happened was that my Christianity is a Christianity, and I be square and truthful with you, that is made destroyed and made to destroy people of color on the face of the earth. I'm giving it to you now the way it is. Exactly the way it is. And now they celebrated Arrokondan Gandule Penmil, Budweiser and Bacardi, and music in the opening of presents, celebrating and getting drunk, celebrating the birthday of God. Celebrating the birthday of God. Celebrating the birthday of God. You see what I'm trying to say? Look at the loss. You forgot God. Because in your heart, when I was a Christian, I looked to lay on the crutch of dependency and weakness of faith on a man, rather than the man who had laid his dependency on God. I sought to put it on him. And I was lost. And then after 3 weeks, I was going to kill a Muslim. I'll tell you the truth. In the Bronx, New York, after coming out of the gym. After coming out of the gym, I saw a Muslim, skinny, from Bangladesh, looked like he missed many meals. And all the food he ate went to his beard, because his beard was... And I said, look at this. After what you did yesterday, having the gall to walk around in that state, and to me was a banner of arrogance, that after those people died, you would walk around. I wanted to throw him in front of a bus on Riverdale Avenue in the Bronx. When I walked toward this man to do it because I was nasty, I couldn't move. Consequently, I became Muslim. I found God. I found what Jesus Christ tried to say. And in finding God, the one who created Jesus and sent Jesus on his mission, I have come home. I have now become a person who follows in the teachings of the beloved prophets of God who God had sent. These men didn't come to teach us how to play basketball or to play football or how to write a good book. They came with a specific purpose from God, to teach every single one of us. You see, the prophets were a mercy from God. They were a mercy. Why? Because these prophets gave us the methodology and the system by which we're to worship God. You see, men can do anything and create any kind of religion and any kind of methodology for worship. But you see, men are not prophets. God sent these men for a reason. As a Muslim, I'm a follower of the teachings of the prophets. about this thing of Mecca, that he says about Mecca. Ali, he's a great guy. But I get the feeling that with all Ali's scholarship in Islam, he really had no understanding. And I guess that's why he left. You see, when you face Mecca and why you face, he doesn't know that Jesus Christ said to the woman of Canaan, he said, woman, you know not what you worship, but we know who we worship. Now look, we. He didn't say, woman, you know not what you worship, but my disciples know what they worship. They know what they worship. He knows what they worship. We know what we worship. Does God worship God? Therefore I say unto you, that you will neither worship at this mountain, Zion, nor in Jerusalem. He's talking about the changing of the Qibla. Now when you talk about, this is Jesus Christ supposedly, in your Bible. When you talk about the system of the looking toward Mecca, you know what it is? It's a system of unifying the creation of God, where we're all looking in one direction, as one nation, as one people, with no color, with no race, with no flags, as one people worshiping God, facing the same direction. A symbol of unity, the oneness of man and the oneness of God. This is why we face toward Mecca. It was called orientation in the days of Jesus Christ. The orientation was toward Jerusalem. Why do you not ask, why did God then not understand then why man had to face Jerusalem? Why? In the Bible, again in the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 9, God speaks that he will speak to his people in a new language. Zephaniah 3:9. And they shall call God by a common name. Muslims from every country on the face of the earth. And I'm Puerto Rican, ¿tú sabes lo que te estoy diciendo? Yo soy boricua de pura cepa. I say the word Allah. He said the word Allah. The German who becomes a Muslim says Allah. The Swede who becomes a Muslim says Allah. The Russian says Allah. The African says Allah. Now notice, called by a different name, all in unity, acknowledging God is one God and one God only. You chose to leave Islam, not because you didn't understand it, but because you resented having to learn Arabic and to speak in a language other than was yours. This is why I chose to accept what God told me is called submission to the will of God. Moses submitted himself. Did he question God? Abraham, when Abraham was asked to kill his own son, did Abraham say, "Yeah, God, you're just my only son, man. He's handsome too. I'm not going to do it." When, where, how? And he chose to kill his son in submission to the will of God. Did he ask what language, what face, what other? Did he ask? No. He was a Muslim in submission to the will of God. If you do not want to submit to God from your heart, then be what you are. But if you love God and want to submit to God, and what God tells you to do, you do. As the Muslim says, we hear and we obey. Then become a Muslim. If your commitment to God is strong, if you're willing to make a commitment from the heart, from the body, and to accept and to put down your ego, and that you are greater than all and greater than everybody and better than some, but you're not better than God, then if your commitment is strong, become a Muslim. Now the other points that he raised, I didn't write most of them because the unity of mankind and all these things again. I became a Muslim. My life was changed, taken from the Bronx, a Bronx boy with a GED. I have a general equivalency diploma, which means, I wrote a letter and passed a little test and I got a diploma. I don't have the scholarship that he has. I don't have the scholarship that David Wood has. I don't have the scholarship that Ed Delcourt has. I don't have the scholarship and learning of none of those men. I am this small looking up at giants. But what makes me a giant is my faith in God. And these three men, with the little knowledge that I have, could not destroy me. Not me, but could not destroy the truth of God. I am nothing compared to them. No diploma. But what I have is a love for God that when I think about him, I cry. And that God that I see God. How many times have I told you out there that when I leave and look at California, how beautiful it is, I see God in those beautiful mountains. I see God in your beautiful trees. I see God in my daughter. I see God in my wife. I see God in the air that I breathe. I see God in his miracle all around me when I look in the mirror that he created me. He made me and he sustains my life. The Quran says, why do you search for miracles when God is all over you? Why do you want to be a turtle that wants to fly doing 1,000 miles an hour? And why do you require that of God? When he makes himself preeminent in your life every single day just for the fact that you're breathing. Did you ever think about it? Did you ever think about it? And this is Islam. And that changed my life. From where I was, nasty, drugs, doing everything I did. I lived in the 70s, and they said the old saying about the 70s, if you remember the 70s, you didn't live them. And trust me, I lived the 70s, I can't remember what happened. But look where I am now, from the Bronx, New York to California, with a GED, preaching and talking about God, from the lowest of his service down in this beautiful house here, talking to you about a religion that is the most misunderstood religion on the face of the earth, and the little mandate that I believe I had is to shed truth on it. I found God. I found God. I'll say it again. When I was a Christian, I found Jesus and lost God, while Jesus was trying to tell me to find God. When I became a Muslim, I found God and understood Jesus. I think that is the greatest of things, because Jesus spoke of the worship and understanding of this God who created and who is so merciful and loving. The Quran, every single surah of the Quran starts with what? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the beneficent and the merciful. What didn't you understand about that? When every single surah, what you came for, why you left, wasn't a question of lack of faith, but a question of ethnicity and repulsion against it because of what you found. I found that with Riza Safa, another person who makes the same claim. Why? I'm Arab. I'm from Iran. Why did I have to? I'm Puerto Rican. Okay? And I submit to the will of God. God understood languages because he created languages. God says in the Holy Quran, do you not see that I have created man into different tribes and nations and colors, not that you may hate each other, but that you may learn and love from each other and love each other. Holy Quran. Please do not blame your inconsistency and your lack of wanting to submit and looking for every reason to leave so that you could have an easy way out. So that you could have an easy way out. The greatest of all the prophets of God, all the prophets were tested. Every single one. Muhammad ibn Abdullah said, none of you will be tested like me. Jesus was tested. Moses was tested. Abraham was tested. Isaac was tested. Noah was tested. Jonah was tested. And we will be tested. What? In your faith that it should be toward the one God and the one God only. We say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. I invite you to establish God in your life as one God and one God only. The way that Moses, Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael and the prophets of God did. I pray directly to God in Spanish, English, and whatever other language I want to, because in dua, I can speak to Allah in the language that I know. And this is another thing, in the language that I know. And my God, because he is God, he hears. My God hears. How can you say that God doesn't understand the languages that he created? How? Where does that come from? From an inner prejudice within yourself that makes you rebel, that makes you believe that your culture was subservient and that you had to learn another language. That's where that comes from. These are suffers from the same thing. From the same thing. I submit to the will of God, and I learned the Quran in Arabic. May God bless you and keep you safe. I hope my loud voice hasn't hurt many of your ears.